If I had known all these things when I first started playing Horizon Forbidden West, I would have had even more fun. Forbidden West is a great game, but it definitely leaves you to figure out a lot on your own, and sometimes you just need to know how things work to maximize your playtime. If for some reason you haven't played Zero Dawn, which is the first game, I highly recommend you do that before playing Forbidden West. If you're at all interested in the story and lore of this universe, hands down, you've got to play Zero Dawn first. But don't worry, no Zero Dawn spoilers here. I won't tell you that Aloy's actually a or anything like that. Okay, so for Forbidden West, you should know that it starts out pretty slow. If you're feeling like the story is a bit underwhelming and you're not really getting the open world you were promised, trust me, it picks up and there's going to be a ton to explore. But you do have to stick with it for a while. After spending a couple hours in the tutorial, you can easily spend another 5 or more hours in the Daunt, which is honestly a sort of extended tutorial area. The story doesn't really get going until you're past the embassy. So my first major tip is to get through the embassy so you can continue on to the Death's Door main quest, where you'll see some much more interesting stuff. There are some things you should make sure to do before leaving the Daunt though. To pick up some easy XP, you can quickly grab the Vista Point for 1500. You just need to line up the focus from the correct spot. The XP from Vista Points won't be as beneficial later, but the Daunt one is a nice early boost. It'll also point you towards the Daunt Relic Ruin, a more complex puzzle but totally doable and very rewarding, granting 5000 XP. Doing all the Relic Ruins will also let you claim one of the best legendary weapons in the game in Hidden Ember, the Ancestors Return Shredder Gauntlet, which is my personal favorite weapon in the entire game. As for side quests and errands, a bigger boom for Della and Boomer in Chainscrape is definitely a must for the prototype Spike Thrower, which can deal more damage than any other early weapon. I also think Deep Trouble is worth doing for an easy 1250 XP and 2 skill points. You'll need to explore the northern part of the Daunt for that one. Back in the Chainscrape Tavern, you can pick up the Dash of Courage errand from Mildif the Cook. This will introduce you to the new food mechanic. Food can temporarily boost your max health as well as different skills. A lot of players sleep on food, but it can be really helpful in combat, especially early on. Plus, Mildif will let you have a free food item for completing the errand. Over in Barren Light, you can pick up Shadow from the Past, which is another nice XP boost, but also unlocks the Shadow in the West quest, which you can do soon after leaving the Daunt. That one lets you get the Whisper Hunter Bow, one of the best green ones for its 65% stealth damage perk. There's a bunch of other side content to do in the Daunt, and I would do enough to at least reach level 10 before doing the embassy. Maybe a little higher if you're playing on a higher difficulty. Aloy's max HP increases by 10 points each time you level, and she's pretty squishy at the start. You'll also want to begin upgrading your pouches early on to increase ammo capacity. But you need animal parts, and it's often hard to find the specific animals you need to hunt. So to find them easily, hit this button to create a job, which puts a marker on the map showing you where to find the animal. For fish, believe it or not, the easiest way to catch them is to hop in the water and swim close enough to get the interact prompt, letting Aloy go full-on cave woman and snatch them with her bare hands. Past the Daunt, the world really opens up, and of course, exploration is a huge aspect of the game. So I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I will give you some important tips. While collecting resources like berries and Ridgewood, even if you have a full inventory, additional items will automatically be sent to your stash so you can use them later. The same is true when you craft ammo actually, because the full ammo amount from the recipe gets crafted no matter how much you need. So extra ammo is sent to the stash. Stashes can be found in all the settlements and at all the shelters out in the wilds. And when you open your stash, you can quickly restock on everything you have space for by holding this button right here. You can also reveal resources in the environment by using the new focus ping. By default, this is done by tapping the right stick on controller or the focus key on PC. To get into the full scanning mode, you now need to hold down, which a lot of Zero Dawn players won't like. So if you want to swap that, go into the controls setting tab and switch the focus mode input to inverted. Oh, and if you're wondering how I'm picking up resources so quickly, it's because I have auto pickup turned on at the bottom of the general settings tab. This is a great quality of life setting, but Aloy will stop automatically gathering if the inventory item limits are reached. In that case, just use the interact button to keep picking up and sending items to the stash. And you will want to keep picking berries even when your inventory is full, because they'll randomly give you some vigor stem, which which is needed for crafting certain potions. I would also continue to hunt animals as much as possible, not only for pouch upgrades, but for the meat you need to craft fast travel packs and various potions. Unfortunately, the golden fast travel pack from Zero Dawn is no more, and regular fast travel packs can be a bit hard to come by early in the game. Fast traveling between campfires is free though, so I would do that whenever possible. In Zero Dawn, climbing was a pain point for a lot of players, so Guerrilla has made some modest improvements in Forbidden West, like way more climbing holds and the ability to see them clearly with the focus ping. If you want to turn them on permanently, you can toggle on climbing annotations in the visual settings tab. But in my opinion, the biggest improvement to climbing is the addition of grapple points, which you can zip to using the polecaster. Of course, the game teaches you about these, but what it doesn't show you is that you can actually launch off grapple points by tapping the dodge button while Aloy is grappling. This lets you scale cliffs and other vertical features much faster, and you can even chain grapple points together by zipping to another one mid-air. You'll need to do a lot of climbing in cauldrons as well. The cauldrons out here in the West are even more unique compared to Zero Dawn, and they also give a very generous amount of XP, so I would definitely recommend doing some as you go. Tall necks are another great way to get some easy XP while uncovering the map. Forbidden West tall necks are more interesting than their Zero Dawn brethren too. Each one represents a unique environmental challenge to solve before you can actually get up there and poke them in the noggin. There are tons of quests and errands all over the map to dive into as well, but I do have an overarching approach I recommend. At a certain point fairly early on, you'll arrive at the base and you'll be presented with 3 main story branches, all of which you'll need to complete at some point. Each one of these will unlock a special tool you need to interact with and access certain things around the map. So of course you can do as much side content as you like before and between these 3 main branches, but I would recommend prioritizing getting all 3 done. They come with recommended levels and I would just go through them from lowest to highest. However, once you're done with all 3 of these, I would hit pause on doing main quests for a while and circle back to do all the other side content you want to do. See, once you're done with all 3 of those branches, you'll be nearing the end of the base game's main story, but pretty much the whole map will now be open to you and you'll have all the special tools needed to explore to your heart's content. While exploring, you'll come across green shine crystals, and later in the Burning Shores DLC, a similar resource called Brimshine. These are special resources you'll need to buy and upgrade certain weapons, like Blue Gleam in Zero Dawn. Now, green shine actually has 5 different types, with slivers being the most common and slabs being the rarest. Generally, you'll find green shine in areas like the ends of little canyons and caves, hidden under bridges, and up on high cliffs. If you want some help finding green shine, I highly recommend the Map Genie interactive map, which I link in all my video descriptions. Similarly, you'll also want to keep an eye out for black boxes in ancient plane crashes. These all link together with interesting audio data points for a nice little dose of lore, and you can trade the black boxes in at the Memorial Grove for some rare machine parts. And once you trade them all in, you'll get the legendary Wings of the Ten Blast Sling. You can get some other good gear by doing salvage contracts, the first of which you pretty much can't miss right after the embassy. Now, you can rush doing all the salvage contracts to get the legendary Oseram Artificer outfit, but this outfit is really geared for the melee playstyle, which is very difficult to utilize until the endgame. So I suggest a more targeted approach to the salvage contracts. I would definitely go find Runda in the Still Sands. In particular, you want the Rollerback salvage contract, which rewards you with the Sunshot Hunter bow, a really good purple bow for the late game. I would also find Danner in the Rain Trace for the Reinforced Components contract, which will net you the Vindicator Spike Thrower, an excellent purple spike thrower with both explosive and drill spikes. Another piece of gear to keep an eye out for is Regala's Wrath, a very nice purple sharpshot bow. There will come a point during a late main quest where you need to make a choice between being harsh or forgiving with Regala. The forgiving option results in getting an outfit, and the harsh one gives you the bow. It's up to you of course, but the bow is definitely better. Now, the new gear upgrade system demands a lot of resources, so you need to know how to get shards, resources, and machine components like Apex Hearts efficiently. In addition to looting shards directly from machines and chests, your primary way of getting them is by selling ancient trinkets and ingots. Sort your inventory into categories and you'll get the valuables to sell section. Now, you'll notice a lot of machine components show up here, most of which are okay to sell, but there's a few you actually do need for gear upgrades. upgrades. So I recommend just hanging on to all these machine parts until later on when you're more settled on your endgame gear. You should be able to get plenty of shards by just selling ancients and ingots. The other thing to hang on to are processed metal blocks. You can trade these to salvage contractors for rare machine components, which is a really good way to get them early on. And you can farm metal blocks by hunting scavenger machines like scrappers, scroungers, and glinthawks. A couple good places to farm are the Scrounger site just south of the Daunt Relic Ruin, and this one south of the salvage contractor in No Man's Land. Just make sure all 3 green lights on their side are lit up before you kill them. That ensures they'll drop 5 blocks. If they've been scavenging a machine, you can also loot that carcass for blocks. One particular resource you're going to find tough to keep stocked up on is volatile sludge. This is used to craft advanced ammos on higher rarity weapons, and it comes primarily from Apex machines. The best way to farm it is to find some Apex spike snouts, but you need to keep their various sacks intact to get the most sludge. So freeze them and then body them with a high damage weapon like a sharpshot bow. There's a good spike snout site over here just south of the shelter. A lot of players have trouble finding Apex machines of any sort though, and there's a few reasons for that. First, they won't spawn at all in the open world until you're done with the Dying Lands main quest. After that, the more you kill a particular machine, the more likely they are to spawn as Apexes in the future. Big machines require 4 or 5 kills to max out their Apex spawn rate, and smaller ones require anywhere from 10 to 30. But the most important factor when trying to find Apexes is the time of day. Apex machines are far more likely to spawn at night. So if you're hunting Apexes, first decide what site you're going to hunt, and then go to a shelter that's far away from it and make it night. It needs to be far away because we want to force the machines to respawn when you go to your desired hunting site. As long as it's still nighttime when you get there, you'll have a high likelihood of getting an Apex. Also, keep in mind that if you die to an Apex, when you respawn, the game will usually give you a regular variant instead. It's basically the game trying to give you a break because you died. In this case, fast traveling to a different site is the simplest solution. Now, unless you're playing on story or easy, you've probably realized that external machine components get destroyed if you don't tear them off before killing the machine. You're going to need a lot of those components for gear upgrades, so you definitely want to get in the habit of tearing them off. However, if you really hate this mechanic, there is a way to disable it. Simply change your difficulty to custom, select the damage and enemy health settings to match your desired difficulty, and then turn the easy loot setting on. That being said, if you can get the combat mechanics down, you probably won't need easy loot. The combat system in Forbidden West is really rich and complex, much more so than Zero Dawn, which, very understandably, may be causing some frustration for you. So it's a huge topic that I cover in depth in my combat masterclass and a bunch of other deep dive videos, but let me get you started with some essentials. Scanning a machine with the focus is always important to reveal vulnerable components and weak points you can target for increased damage. The focus now also lets you tag machine parts to make them permanently glow, which gives you good targets to aim for. And you do definitely want to aim for components because a machine's armor plates, which cover most of its body, block a ton of damage. Scanning also reveals a machine's elemental weaknesses, which you'll want to try to exploit whenever possible. Just like in Zero Dawn, Frost is arguably the strongest element, offering up to a 2x damage multiplier and negating the effects of armor plates. Unfortunately, you won't be able to leverage Frost very much until you're past the Daunt and can get some better gear. So instead, you can leverage the new Acid element. Don't confuse Acid with Corruption from Zero Dawn though. It does use the same symbol, but it's totally different. Corruption actually got a new red symbol and it's now called Berserk. Acid decreases the effectiveness of armor, similar to Frost, though it doesn't boost damage. You'll get acid arrows on your default bow very early, and you can use these to trigger chain reactions on the bristleback's acid canisters. Like any chain reaction, the explosion deals a nice chunk of damage and immediately applies the elemental state, so proccing those acid canisters is a great tactic. Healing also works a little differently now. The berry pouch has 2 stages, so there's a certain amount available to use immediately, but once you've used those up, you have to hold down the healing button to refill the pouch. Potions also take a moment to consume, making them a bit riskier to use, but healing potions can now actually overheal you to temporarily increase your max health. During the tutorial and in the Daunt, you're also going to want to play it pretty stealthy. Silent Strikes, which are a stealth takedown ability Aloy gets by default, deal way more damage than any early ranged weapon, and can often take down early enemies in one shot, so you want to do those whenever possible. Once you're using ranged weapons more often though, I would highly encourage you to break the habit of using a hunter bow to deal impact damage. If you're like me, then you did this a lot in Zero Dawn, but it just isn't effective in Forbidden West. Hunter bows are really good for tearing off components, and the elemental ones are good for applying elemental states, but they just aren't the best for impact damage. Instead, a sharp shot bow is a much better choice. The new bolt blasters and warrior bows are also good for impact damage once you know how to use them properly. Speaking of gear, there's an absolute truckload of it in Forbidden West. Way too much to cover it all here, but one useful early weapon you can pick up in Barren Light is the knockdown sharp shot bow. Its knockdown arrows can be used to trigger knockdowns on machines quite easily and from a safe distance. Just hit small machines anywhere in the body besides their head and they'll go down. For larger machines, you need to hit them with a few in the leg, but they'll go down too. You don't even have to upgrade the bow if you don't want to, but doing so will give you some of the strongest regular precision arrows you can get early on, which are a good option for dealing damage. Like we mentioned earlier, you'll also want that prototype spike thrower from the Bigger Boom errand. As for an early outfit, I would highly recommend swapping your default Nora Anointed for something with more melee resistance as soon as possible. The Oseram Explorer is an excellent option, and the first outfit you can buy in Chainscrape. It also has some helpful skill perks, like Critical Strike Plus, which boosts your critical strike damage. For those of you who got the Collector's or Complete Edition, which includes everyone on PC, you'll also have access to the Karja Behemoth Elite, which is basically a slightly better version of the Oseram Explorer. Your next upgrade should be the Nora Sentinel, which you can pick up in Barren Light. This is an excellent blue outfit that you can use all the way through the mid-game and even into the late game, but you do need a Skydrifter Circulator to purchase it. If you're lucky, you might loot one from a random chest in the Daunt, but it's more likely you'll need to hunt one down just outside the Daunt. Oh, and remember, Forbidden West has transmog, so you can use the Apply Look feature to wear one outfit for its stats, but make it look like another. To see all the outfits and their different dye variations, you can check out the excellent gallery my friend RoboDinoPuppy created that I link in all my video descriptions. I'm sure you've also noticed that gear requires upgrades. Upgrading gear unlocks and increases ammo, stats, perks, and coil slots. It can be really expensive and time consuming to fully upgrade all your gear though, so you want to be somewhat selective. But on weapons, the first upgrade is typically pretty cheap and worth it to unlock the Overdraw perk. If you played the Frozen Wilds DLC for Zero Dawn, then you'll recognize this as a mechanic from the Banuk bows. Most weapons in Forbidden West now have Overdraw, allowing you to get a 15 to 30% damage boost by simply holding your shot longer. If you're looking for a particular upgrade component for a piece of gear, just like for pouch upgrades, you can create a job to get a marker on the map showing where to find the machine you need to hunt. Weapons and outfits can be modified with coils and weaves, just like Zero Dawn, but good coils and weaves aren't farmable from machines anymore. Instead, the best coils all come from either specific machine bosses during quests or from hunter merchants, who have limited inventory and never restock. So in a single playthrough, you're limited to only a few copies of all the best coils. So of course you'll be wanting to know where to find all the best coils, and I made a detailed guide including a spreadsheet that'll show you exactly that. As for weaves, those also come in limited quantities, and most of the good ones actually come with outfits and are locked in the first weave slot. You need to upgrade the outfit to unlock the weave, either to activate it on the outfit it came with or to remove it to use on another outfit. These weaves are always the skill boosting type, which are the best sort. There are weaves out there that increase damage resistance stats like in Zero Dawn, but they're really not worth it compared to the skill boosting ones. You can buy some +1 versions of skill boosting weaves from Stitcher merchants, and some of these are definitely worth it. For example, the low health defense weave in Barren Light is a great one to get early. Optimizing your outfit with skill boosting weaves is really important, especially since the coveted Shield Weaver armor from Zero Dawn isn't here anymore. You'll find gear for sale in all the settlements as you explore, but there are a couple of locations with loads of really good stuff. The first one you'll find is the Arena. The legendary weapons and outfits sold here are some of the best in the game, but they're very hard to get because they cost arena medals, which only come from beating the arena challenges. The arena is very difficult and requires totally different tactics than what you would use anywhere else in the game. So if you'd like some help with the challenges, I have a detailed guide for them. The other location you'll find really good gear is Thornmarsh on the western coast. The Hunter Merchant has lots of great weapons and coils, and the Stitcher has a whole bunch of outfits, including the only 2 legendary ones you can outright buy with normal resources. We also need to talk about skills because they're really important, but also quite a bit more complex than in Zero Dawn. Within the 6 skill trees, there's now 4 different types of skills, and the little circular ones, called passive skills, are the most important to understand. Each one operates at 4 different levels, with higher levels giving more of a benefit. You can get a passive skill to level 2 by unlocking its 2 nodes in the skill tree, but to get it to level 4, you'll need to get points from either outfit skill perks or a skill boosting weave. So skills, outfits, and weaves are all connected. There are enough skill points in the game to eventually unlock all the skills if you do absolutely everything, including machine strike matches. And it's nice that you can reset your skills at any time, but when you have limited skill points at the start, it's important to know which skills are going to help you the most. In general, you'll want to focus on the warrior, hunter, survivor, and infiltrator trees to begin with. Trapper and machine master can be ignored for a while. For the specific skills you want to pick up first, I have a series on exactly that. We've already covered a few settings you'll want to consider changing, but there's a bunch more you should take a look at. First, the weapon wheel slowdown can be adjusted, and many players find putting this on the slower or slowest setting is helpful. We already talked about auto pickup, and right below that we have auto shield wing, which automatically deploys the shield wing to prevent you from taking fall damage. Thalassophobia relief is for those of you that get uncomfortable with the underwater swimming. It boosts visibility and makes it impossible to drown. Show headpiece is another nice one if you want to turn off the outfit helmets. Moving on to controls, I would play around with auto camera to see if you like having the camera automatically turn to follow your movement. Further down we have motion aiming, which lets you use the gyros in the DualSense controller to make fine adjustments while aiming. I personally don't like it, but some players do. Now, weapon quick swap is one you probably will want to turn on. This lets you toggle between the 2 previously equipped weapons by tapping L1, or whichever button you use for the weapon wheel on PC. It also allows you to mark 1 ammo with a little white dot by pressing the crouch button with the ammo selected. This makes it your default ammo, so that tapping the weapon wheel to quick swap will always bring you back to it. Below that, we have the focus mode input setting we mentioned earlier, and then at the bottom, I would definitely turn on dodge in focus mode. Otherwise, if you're scanning with the focus, you won't be able to dodge. The next one is more of a personal preference, but I also turned on auto sprint. Now, of course, combat is a massive aspect of Forbidden West, and like we said before, there's a lot the game doesn't explain. So I've got everything you need to know in my combat masterclass right here. Huge thanks to all my friends who contributed their knowledge and tips to this video. If you love Horizon and you want to come hang out with us, you're welcome to join my Discord server. Now, I'm gonna head over to that combat video, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you there in just a second.